Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive deep into something that's probably keeping you up at night. Literally.
Up at night. What, bad dreams?
Well, that too, but I'm talking about overthinking. You know that feeling?
Oh, yeah, like when you just can't shut your brain off, tossing and turning, thinking about everything and nothing all at once.
Exactly. We're taking a cue from the Mind Over Mess podcast and their episode Overthinking, Stress, and Sleepless Nights. No thanks. I mean, who needs those, right?
No thanks.
So for this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack why our brains seem to love a good 3 a.m. worry fest.
Yeah, the brain is a mysterious thing.
Yeah, it really is. But luckily, we've got an expert here to help us decode it all, so let's get right to it. What's really going on when we say we're overthinking?
Well, it's more than just, thinking a lot. I mean, we all think a lot, right? It's when your thoughts kind of get stuck in this loop.
A loop.
Yeah, like a broken record, replaying the same anxieties over and over, but never actually getting to a solution.
Oh, so it's not just the amount of thinking, it's the kind of thinking that's the problem.
Exactly. And that's where the stress kicks in. Our brains basically see these repetitive negative thoughts as threats.
Threats, like a tiger chasing us.
Well, not quite. But the response is similar. Our bodies go into fight or flight mode, releasing a bunch of cortisol.
Cortisol, that pesky stress hormone.
Right. And a little bit of cortisol is actually helpful. It keeps us alert and focused. But when we're constantly overthinking...
It's like having that stress alarm blaring all night long.
Exactly. And you know what that does? It totally messes with our sleep cycles.
Which makes it even harder to fall asleep. Oh man, talk about a vicious cycle.
It gets worse. Because guess what? When you don't sleep well, your brain doesn't function at its best.
No kidding. I'm a zombie without my coffee.
Think about it. When you're sleep deprived, that part of your brain responsible for logic and emotional control, the prefrontal cortex, it's basically taking a nap.
So it's like trying to drive a car with faulty brakes. Our thoughts are just all over the place.
And guess what loves a brain with faulty brakes?
Don't tell me. More overthinking.
You got it. So, lack of sleep throws gasoline on the fire of overthinking.
This is starting to feel a bit hopeless. Is there any way to break this cycle?
Well, the good news is there are ways to manage it, and it starts with understanding what's happening in our brains.
Okay, so knowledge is power. Got it. What else?
Well, research suggests overthinking can actually change the structure of our brains over time.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, the more we engage in these repetitive negative thought patterns, the stronger those neural pathways become.
So it's like our brains are getting really good at overthinking.
Unfortunately, yes, making it even easier to fall back into those negative thought traps. But, and this is a big but, there's some good news here. The Mind Over Mess podcast actually dives into some techniques to help us rewire those pathways.
Rewire our brains. Sounds intense.
It can be, but it's also empowering. They talk about things like mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, even something as simple as scheduling worry time.
Worry time.
Yeah, instead of letting worries run wild all day, you dedicate a specific time to actually sit down and address them. Then, when worries pop up outside of that time, you can gently remind yourself, nope, not now, I'll deal with that later.
That's pretty clever. So it's about taking control, not just letting our anxieties control us.
Exactly. And it's not about never thinking or worrying. It's about recognizing when our thoughts become unproductive and then having the tools to shift our focus.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about overthinking and how it impacts sleep. But let's zoom out for a second. Why should we even care about all this?
That's a great question. We care because it's not just about feeling tired. Chronic sleep deprivation can actually have some pretty serious consequences for our physical and mental health.
Oh, I know this one. Increased risk of things like heart disease, diabetes, depression, even weakened immune system. Fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely not fun. But here's the thing, just knowing that overthinking can fuel this cycle can be incredibly empowering. It gives us a starting point to actually do something about it.
So it's not about silencing our thoughts completely. It's about understanding them and having strategies to manage them. This deep dive has definitely given me a new perspective on those sleepless nights. It's not just about counting sheep, it's about understanding what's happening in our brains and taking steps to calm the mental storm.
And that's a really important point. It's not about eliminating overthinking altogether, right? Sometimes, it's useful to analyze things or, plan ahead.
Yeah.
But the key is recognizing when it becomes, detrimental to your well-being.
Right, like when it's 3 a.m. and you're stressing about something that happened a year ago. So to wrap things up, if you're struggling with overthinking and those dreaded sleepless nights, definitely check out the Mind Over Mess podcast. They go into way more detail than we can here, and they've got us some really great practical advice.
And, here's something for all of you to think about. We can't always stop those late night thoughts from popping up, but could understanding this whole overthinking stress sleep cycle help us reframe them? Could we maybe learn to view them less as threats and more as, I don't know, maybe opportunities for growth or even creative problem solving?
Hmm, that's a great point. It's like instead of fearing those thoughts, we can learn to use them to our advantage.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, remember, your brain is powerful, and understanding it is the first step to taking control.
And getting a good night's sleep.
Absolutely. Sweet dreams, everyone.
Sweet dreams.